Hello, and good evening. Good evening, everybody. So sorry for the beginning. We did have some technical hitches, but what's life without, challenges? We got through in the end. So good evening and welcome once again to SaffronSACAP Voiceover Talk Show. As always, my name is Giz Ojiako, and I am SaffronSACAP's Director for Programs. It's amazing to be back again. Our third week of sustaining families. I hope you've been enjoying the programs we've been putting on so far. Today, I have with me my colleagues who always keep me in check. So I'm going to ask Marcia to unmute and introduce yourself, please.
Hello. Thank you for joining us again on another Wednesday evening. We are privileged to have you in our company. Thank you for your support as always. And I hope you enjoyed tonight. My name is Marcia Eliza, and I'm the Director for Youth Engagement and Intervention.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcia. It's always great to have you on. And alongside Marcia, we also have Yemi. Go ahead, boss. Unmute. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'll just follow in Marcia's footsteps. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, somewhere in the world. It is a privilege to be in your front rooms, in I don't know, where would you be? Your kitchens and everywhere. Just thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for, I know that we have actually a very special guest as well, all the way from Cairo. I can't wait to introduce you, or for you to introduce yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I am, as always, going to be your host on Facebook. Please share. Actually, please go to my profile today because I believe Zoom has done some updates, and I'm going to have to do something for us to share from our page. Hopefully next week we get that sorted out. But please go to my page, Yemi Ebulu, of course, Olori, and share, please. These are important topics which, like I said last week, we really need to get our teeth into. There are a lot of families falling by the wayside. I'm trying to look for the best words, and a lot of our young ones and young adults as well, that we need to see how we can support, listen, find out what's really going on out there within families, look at some success stories as well. It's going to be a very, very interesting evening. So please share, get people on board, and let's talk about matters that are important to us. Have a good evening. God bless.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yemi. And you heard, we want to just welcome our Facebook family. There were some hitches. So if you are on Facebook and you want to share, please go to Yemi's page. And I've also shared it on my page. And please share, because there will be somebody out there that may need to hear what we have to say today. So yes, thank you, Facebook family. Thank you as always. You come on, and please just know that we can take your statements and your questions, and Yemi will be dealing with that today. So feel free to drop whatever it is. If you have a question or if there's something you want to say, please drop it in the Facebook chat. That will be picked up and passed over to myself. And if you have something to say on the Zoom, I would rather you spoke to me, but you still feel free to use the chat facilities here on the Zoom. As always, we do ask for total confidentiality. If you have a story to share, by all means share, because we need to hear the stories, but we do ask that you do not, make them personal. Generalize your stories. You can change names. We don't really want to be hearing about anybody's personal data or information, because we are on a live platform. You are live on Facebook, okay? And we do ask that the exchanges be as polite as possible. We don't always agree. We won't always agree. Parenting, there is no handbook for parenting. Yeah, I just want to put that out there. We are all amazing parents. So let's just be very, very polite in our deliberations. So without much ado, today is parenting millennials. Wow. Wow. Millennials. I know I don't know, I don't know how I feel about that word, but they definitely are millennials. They're definitely that generation. There's something I'm going to just put out there, and these are two different sentences or scenarios. So millennials, they reckon, this is statistics that we've managed to research. So if you're a millennial, you were born between 1980 and 2000. Okay. And basically, so you've got the baby boomers. The baby boomers, they reckon, were 1946 to 64. Then you've got Gen X, which would have been 65 to 80. The millennials, 81 to 95. And then Gen Z, 1996 to 2010. But I believe that Gen Z is also part of the millennial group, which we're talking about today. And for those of you who do have millennials, children born within this category, they've often been described as various things in various ways. I'm going to throw this out there, and this is not Giz describing them. I have 3 millennials, by the way. So one, they say they are lazy, entitled, self-obsessed narcissists. 2, they are open-minded, liberal, self-expressive, upbeat, and overtly passionate. So I throw that out there because you know why? These are perspectives. These are different opinions about millennials. So it's an open forum, as we always say on our Zoom. You know, you are free to please unmute yourself. Let's have this discussion. Yeah.
Can I interject something else, please?
Sure, go ahead.
I also saw one of these posts, and he also said that by 2020, and that was a while ago, that over 5.5 million parents in the UK will be considered millennials. And by 2025, this will be 83% of all parents. So those statistics are quite staggering for me because we're already in 2021. So I don't know. It's a big surprise that there's so many. So looking at that is are we looking at the fact that over 80% of the population in the UK are between those ages? You're laughing, Marcia.
And
Where does that put us?
it's slightly funny. I have two millennials. So I just text one and ask her to do something for me, please. And the reply was, I am sleeping. I just thought about that.
Well, yeah, I have two millennials as well. Okay, let's continue with asking our guests who are on to introduce themselves and give us their opinion, their take on what they see or have heard. Because I had to educate myself. Forget that we work with the millennials within our workspace, but I really had to educate myself on who these millennials are. So, let's start with Auntie Victoria Nwosu. Uh, Please unmute yourself. You're looking very beautiful this evening, ma'am.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Victoria Nwosu, and not quite sure why I'm the first one to speak, but looking at the topic, millennials. Anybody born within 1980 to now falls within that bracket. The problem we have in society is the older you become, the more you sort of see the difference between your own generation and the generations coming behind you. I give you an example of what I'm trying to say. When I was much younger, if I'm walking along the pavement with my friends and we're all walking abreast, talking, we're approaching another group in front of us, automatically we will file into a single line, make way for others coming. You don't get that these days. I had to one day tell off a group of school children. I was lucky, those ones were polite. They said, oh, we're very sorry. We didn't realize we were doing the wrong thing. Maybe this is an exception, the rule. But I just find nowadays we've given too much that the young ones don't care very much about respecting people. So it worries me how they're going to parent their own children when they themselves are not actually playing their game within society. I think this is one thing. Secondly, I'm not sure how much is covered I'm not a teacher. I don't know how much is covered in the curriculum But then mind you, it's not everything that will have to be in the curriculum. How to sleep, how to wake up, how to cook, how to do this, how to do that. Everybody now depends on what we can get out of our phones. Tap in there, that is our lifeline. You want to cook, you tap into that, the recipe, it will tell you how to make this, how not to make that. I'm not sure if that will be the case. We're bringing up children. So it really is a problem and perhaps something we need to look at and see how we can address it.
Okay.
Maybe somebody else could talk and then we'll all see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, you pointed out something which someone else I was speaking with this afternoon said, because I asked the person, I said, so what do you know about this millennial? She said, the internet babies.
Yeah.
And and
Yeah.
that seems to be what sums up a lot of it. And I think that was the age the internet came about, and we started to look at things differently. I want to welcome, hey John, sir, you're welcome.
Hello.
Good to have you on
It's
the
very
program.
nice you invited me. I hadn't had time to actually be out. I mean, it's just funny. I was actually on the Facebook. I mean, on my, and then I kind of like, oh my God, he's Yemi. So somehow I don't even know, but I just said I have to be on this particular episode. Now, I actually used to live in UK, right? Now, I can tell you exactly what the problem is from a man's point of view. And I know Yemi knows about this. The problem with the millennials is not actually it's the mindset. I've lived in Egypt now for over how many, like 9 years now, 8 years. And one thing I discovered in Egypt, there is a family system. They have a family system. We have a family system, which I think has gone out of the window in the UK, because the problem is, which the other lady has spoke about, the problem is the internet. It's a big problem. I think a lot of the stuff that goes on the internet now, it's not creating people the ability to think. They're not thinking anymore. They can't think. The internet has become like a spam. So the problem they're having now is these millennials can't think out of the box anymore. They need something to make them be able to think. So this is the problem going on now, not only in UK, but generally, because in Egypt, the family system is very, very rigid. The system we used to have in Nigeria, I feel like it's gone in UK, because basically, even the parents are falling into the trap. So the amount of advice you're supposed to give the children are not there, because the creativity is not there anymore. So they just go on like, what do you mean? Because the majority of them are not born in Nigeria, they're born in UK. And even though they're born in UK, it's not an excuse. We have to show them our cultures. We have to show them the way we do things. But if you don't start them from a young age and just let them become elusive, you'll find out that eventually they will get into this trap of oblivion. This is the problem going on now with this generation. They have become oblivious to their environment. Now, I can tell you from experience, because I have a son. My son now, you're going to be surprised, he's actually a teacher. Now, you would have thought to yourself, how can a young guy be a teacher in Egypt? How possible is that? How on earth can he do that? You want to know the answer? Yes. I taught him how to think. I got him to think for himself. You have to teach them how to think. Think about the positive things of life, not the negative things that they are succumb to. Because the more they see the negative, the more their beliefs will disappear. So I had to teach my son to have belief in himself and confidence. Because when he was in school in UK, I'll be honest with you, he wasn't learning anything, nothing. Do you know what the last thing they taught him? Slavery. I went to the school and asked them, what is he supposed to do with this subject anyway? What is he supposed to do with slavery? He can't do anything with that. That already is a negative. It's already a negative. He can't do anything with that at all. This is a problem. We need something positive. We need to have positive things to be able to enhance this generation, because they're falling from the wayside, because they have succumbed to the wayfall of the internet, which is not normal. You go on Instagram, I see stuff, I'm like, what the heck? I don't even know what to say. I'm like, what do they do with this stuff anyway? I don't know. So I had to show my son, he has to think for himself. We have a responsibility as parents, right? I don't care what anyone says. If I can do it, everybody else can do it. I'm in Egypt, right? I'm a black guy in Egypt. You say to me, how on earth can I do this? Well, it's because I took responsibility for my child. I didn't want him falling by the wayside, because if he falls by the wayside, I've lost him. We have to protect our children. We have to take responsibility. I tell you something, he didn't go to school. If you want to know the answer, he didn't go to school. When we came to Egypt, he did not go to school. I found private teachers to teach him the knowledge that he needs to know. Teach him, please, just teach him. And he said to me, Dad, I want to be a coach, because he used to play football. I said to him, you want to coach? Okay. He was the one that used his own initiative to send a CV to an academy in Cairo. Now, I tell you something funny. The actual owner of the academy was, he's an Irish guy from Portsmouth. He said to me, he didn't even know my son was 16 from the CV that he sent over. What I'm trying to explain to you is that we have a responsibility to make our children become what they are. Don't give your children to the system. Don't do that. That is the biggest mistake you people are making. You hand your child to the system, you're letting them become elusive. Let me tell you now, my son is 22. He's teaching in a top school since the age of 19, and he's a head coach from 16 years old. Yes, I can tell you now. He went and did the qualifications himself. We have to motivate our children. Do not let the children become elusive, right? The opportunities are there in UK. Use them. Use them. That's what you are supposed to do. Use them. Because the problem is, if you let the child become elusive and he's telling you, no, I can't, that is the negativity of the environment affecting him. We have to show him something to believe in. It's about self-belief and confidence. If you can do that for your child, he will be fine. Awesome. Doesn't matter where he goes in the world. I'm in Egypt, right? Got nothing to do with religion. I'm not even a Muslim, but I have education. I can teach. My son can teach because I showed him what he had to do in self-belief. We can help these children. All we have to do is give them self-belief and confidence in themselves. That's all. Brilliant. Anyway, I'll let you guys continue. I'll just listen. But that is my own story. Okay?
That was amazing. Thank you, K. John. Thank you. That was very, very insightful. That was really good. Yeah, you touched on some amazing points there. I love the self-belief and the confidence. Protecting our children, you know, it's I like how you said there's a lot of opportunities in the UK. Yeah. And ideally you would think, yeah, there is. But then when you turn on the news, it tells you a totally different story. So what I want to throw out there is I love K. John's perspective. And at this point in time, I guess most of us would love to rush our kids to Egypt because it sounds like they've got it going on. But because we can't do that for these millennials, you know, I'm going to, before I continue, Shola wrote something in the chat. I'm just going to say, Shola, are you able to unmute and say this yourself? Yeah, go ahead, Shola.
I can't actually, okay, I just said, hi everyone, very interesting topic and it's very relevant. I totally appreciate things have changed from 50 years ago, but even now I find myself thinking, oh my gosh, I'm turning into my mother. Surely I think your life experiences mold you. Obviously, like the previous speaker said, you know, you have to, you're responsible for molding these young people, but at the end of the day, they have to have the right environment to flourish in. And I suppose some of us that were in my age group, our group, that were raised in the UK, I'm sure we had some conflicts in the way our parents brought us up to the conflicts of the people we hang up with at school. Yeah. It was different, wasn't it? Homework, you had to clean the house, you had to wash plates, you had to look after your younger siblings. But, and those are the things that we would gripe at, you know, these kids for now, that you don't wash plates, you don't do this, and I find myself turning into my mother. So I think, you know, and to be quite fair, it's quite hard being a young person right now. You know, everything is dictated by social media. If your phone doesn't ping, if people don't like what you're wearing, if, you know, if you don't get 20 likes, you start feeling inferior. So it's really up to you. It's really up to us to tell them what they are, because the world is ready to tell them what they are and to box them. Yeah. And I'm a bit, I'm going to have to sort of disagree with Kay on this. I don't believe there are that many opportunities. You know, I've together with some friends, we've actually done a research where we sent out, and you know, this is a well-known research that people do. We've sent out the same CVs, all that was changed with the names, and it's heartbreaking, you know, because I read this things and I'm like, yeah, but I actually did it myself, and it was astonishing. It was really, really astonishing. So you have children that are quite happily grown to primary school, black, white, they're all friends, and, you know, society will dictate. And the ones that we hear when kids do really well and they get into a scholarship at Oxford and whatever, and we start saying, oh, that's so good. There are loads of them that are like that, but they get, do you know what I mean? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Those are just the token ones that are allowed to get to that level. There are thousands of them like that, and they relegate them to doing sports or to doing, do you know what I mean? You know, and to me, I worked for an organization and they put so much money into these inner kids to do sports and to do music, rapping. And I'm like, if someone can rap, they can write. You can write, you can debate, you can write policies, you can change stuff. Because if you listen to the words in rap, it's about life. You know, I couldn't do that at that age. I could not do that at that age. So you're a policy writer because you're rapping at 12. That means, you know, you're a leader, but they've been relegated to, it's just music. So, and I think that's us as well. You know, we tried to say we're not like our parents, but if your child says they want to be a musician, let's be really honest. Let's be really honest. We're not having it, are we? So that's it. I'll shut up now.
Oh, so Shola, thank you so much. That was absolutely, you know, spot on. And you know, you're very right. When you said, you know, social media dictates what these millennials do, and I'll give you an instant. Just yesterday, somebody on Facebook said she had just had a meltdown with her daughter. She has a Mercedes Benz, but she also has another car, which is probably like an O2 plate. Now, she wants to sell the O2, so she thought, let her go and take it for a bit of a spin to warm it up. I'll go and pick up my child. Got to the daughter's school. The daughter refused to enter the car. She was having major meltdown. Mum, I've told all my friends that we've got a Mercedes Benz. And the mother was, so she eventually got the girl in the car, and so she's come onto the platform to ask us our opinion. And I said, look, let's be real. It's peer pressure, you know. These kids are being taught, but who is teaching them this? And this is where we have to take a step back, because we keep blaming them, but who do they look up to? You know, who is that? There is a force, and yes, there is the internet. But they don't wake up and they're not just born to the internet. We provide the internet. Most of the homes, the internet is not being paid for by the children, okay? The iPads and the telephones are not being bought by the children. It is the parents. So, you know, it's very easy for us to point the fingers, but sometimes too, we as parents and guardians, we've got to take our own share. And Kay rightly said, you know, protect your children. I love what he said, you know, protect your children. And yes, Shola, I get you. How it was for us growing up, you know, so many of the children who come from the African families, we always have this debate. My daughter will say to me, Mom, why do I have to clean? My friend doesn't clean, the mom does it for her. You know, these are different family structures. What works in my family is not working in their family. And it doesn't make their family any worse than mine. It is just basically the way they do their things. But it is our job as parents to educate. And I think Kay John said educate. So I want to hear from anybody else, you know, let's put a voice, because you see, we're all parents on here, or most of us are, and it would be amazing if we can come together and put our voice to, because there could be parents out there who are struggling with these millennials. So if we could have somebody.
Can I just say something quickly regarding what Shola said?
Yeah.
Is it okay if I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, please, go ahead.
Okay, I agree. You see, this is the thing I don't understand. You know, okay, let me put it in a perspective, right? Shola just said there is no opportunities. I'm going to tell you something now. All right, Shola? Now listen to this, right? My brother is actually in Hampshire. He lived in Hampshire. He moved out of London, okay? He moved out of London 2 years ago, basically because he was tough. Now, he's getting jobs in Hampshire. How on earth can my younger brother get jobs in Hampshire? You know why? Because he has the skills. Those areas are kept for them. You have to go into the den to get a job. To come back, you have to go out to come back in. This is the trick. They don't tell you this. Because when you go into the den, you see the lions, you have to go inside to come out. It's a reflection. You look at yourself in the mirror, but you're looking at yourself from far. The majority of the stats you're calculating are based on London. What else is going outside in the other areas? Mm-hmm. That's why he went out there, and now he's out there, he's getting a job in London. How does that work? This is what I'm trying to tell you, what I know. Even though I live in Egypt, I'm in contact with a lot of people in UK. All right. Also, I teach IGSC. I'm a Cambridge examiner in Egypt. So I know a lot of what goes on. It's not because you're in London, it's the reflection of London that is affecting these kids. They need to see other environments outside London. Let them see other places so that they can have belief in themselves. The main focus when you open the Guardian newspaper, you can see London like 500 times before you even see other places. Big London, story. Small area, little story. This is the focus. The mindset is set that way based on London. The opportunities are there. It's based on the reflection, Shola. I'm telling you what I know. Because the kids are in a hub. If you don't take them out of that environment, it's like saying to someone that's never been to a beach. He doesn't even know what a beach looks like. He only sees it in a book. If you don't take him to Southend or take him to Brighton, how will he know what a beach looks like? How will he have belief that a beach exists when he's never been to one? This is the key element. This is why I said we have people, you see, the biggest problem is that as, I don't know, sorry, her name is Liz? Or sorry, the other lady, sorry. As you said, the biggest problem you'll find out now is the peer pressure. The peer pressure is there because they only have the reflection of what they see, not what they know. Their thoughts have been taken away from them. This is what I keep telling you. We need to teach our kids to think again. They're not thinking. When we were in Nigeria, we have to think. We didn't have any internet or anything. We use books, right? We use books. We have to think based on the books we have, right? People say there is no opportunity. What about creativity? Where has our creativity gone? This is the aspect we're not looking at. Where is the creativity? We're not looking at the creativity of what the child is good at. We forget that. You push the child through the school. What about his creativity? Have you looked at what he's good at? This is how we communicate with them. We have to focus on what they are good. Not everyone's going to be a lawyer. Not everyone's going to be a doctor. Not everyone's going to be an engineer. Remember that, Shola. Okay? We have to focus on their abilities, their skill sets, their analytical approach and creativity and critical thinking. It's in their head. I teach all the time in Egypt, you know. I teach Egyptian kids. So I know it's the same thing with London. We have to teach the kids to be able to think out of the box. This is the key. They're in the box. Think outside the box. That's all. I've finished. That's all I wanted to say.
Do you know what, K-John? I echo something that you said, and I believe Kiz and I spoke about this, and we came up with that phrase, creativity. A lot of what our children or the millennials take in is what's on the internet.
Exactly.
You have people, you ask a question, and they either just go to the internet. And I'm not going to mention any of the search sites and search engines, but everything is on the internet, and they believe they can learn from the internet. You can learn, but you have parents who want to have the opportunity to teach their children, and you're asking a question, you're in a conversation, and suddenly is, I'll just I'll just search on the internet, and that's where the answer. They actually rely on the replies that they get from the internet than that conversation they have with you. It says, oh, I'll search on the internet. We'll get the answer from the internet, and that's where, when you mentioned, like, when we were growing up, and I know we all know this phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. Exactly. Because we don't have that necessity to find answers, to critically think, to critically question things and come up with answers. The I don't know whether it's the sense for creativity, for inventions, is beginning to wither out. I don't know if anyone understands or agrees this with me, but inventors are quite far between these days.
Can I just say, Kemi Tommy there from Facebook is saying, could it be because most parents are no longer engaging with their children to explore capabilities and natural talents?
Correct. That is the problem. She's 100% right.
Yeah.
We have no excuses. We have no excuses. I'm sorry. We have no excuses. We're relying on too many excuses to be able to focus on what the child is the expectations are going through the window.
Well, I also think, what do you think that it's also because from this thought that a lot of parents need to also educate themselves more. So when you're in a conversation with your young ones or our millennials, when you're in a conversation with them, you're able to stand your ground to a certain length. Because if you're speaking and the person that you're trying to get into this conversation with has actually overeducated themselves from the internet, how do you match up with that? If you're talking, I know quite a few of you have met my millennial, and if you're talking with him and you can't match what he's saying, and he doesn't think that you're making sense, he will tell you that, I think you really need to educate yourself more. And I think that's what a lot of parents need to do. We need to learn more and then get into an informed and intelligent conversation with our young ones.
Yemi, you're right. Let me just tell you something there. I think the problem as well is that when you look at maybe my generation or maybe before, they don't have the capability to understand the internet very well. A lot of the people that you come across, you would have thought, like my father, he doesn't understand the internet. He hasn't got a clue. So you're right on that aspect, because basically when these kids are trying to have an intelligent conversation, with the parent doesn't understand what's going on. So that could be another frustration going on with the child. So I totally agree with you. We have to bridge the gap as well from our generation to the current thing that's going on to help us to understand the kids. Because if we don't understand them and they don't understand themselves, you find that they lose motivation because they're already under a lot of pressure to be able to, to achieve or make something out of it. So I have to constantly look at, what's going on. We can't just sit back and say, oh, let him get on with it. He needs our support. They need our support. Whatever they're going to do, even if we don't understand, the kids are smart. They will just explain to us what we need to know. And it's important.
Okay.
So I totally agree with you.
Thank you so much, K. John. That's amazing. I want to just take some questions. Auntie Grace has her hands up. Do you want to unmute? Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for the order that you looking beautiful. I'm feeling much better. Okay.
I am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. And what happened is the fact that we are all learning. Things are changing. So our parenting too has to change. In my era, I was beaten, but I know it's for good. It did not affect me. But in this environment, I grew up in Nigeria. I've only been living in England for 28 years. And one thing I realized is that a lot of things have changed. One, the environment here is very permissive. And then two, those children, they face a lot of peer pressure. They've been to their parents' home. They see how some of the children speak to their parents, and some of them want to imitate that. Yes. They want to be part of the group. So there is a lot of pressure. And one of the things is, I believe, and also there's a lot of pressure on parents. For instance, the parents are working, they have bills to pay. At the same time, they have to be there for their children. How do you balance that up? That's a big deal. And then what about single parents? Like if you're a single mom and you have these teenagers who are actually challenging you in your parenting capacity, that's a huge problem. And one of the things is that, and you still have to go to work. You have to balance everything. You have to listen to them. You have to do their homework. You have to discipline them. And that is an Herculean task, I will say, when it comes to actually doing that as a single parent. And you want to be protective. Most of the time, our parenting skill or capacity come from the fact that we want to protect them. And sometimes it's like we are choking them. Like they want to be free. We are not allowing them to take risk. At the same time, what about the killing? What about the whatever outside there? So I've seen a case, a child who told, the child is 17 years old, and who told his parent, "Mom, you are choking me, you are choking me," because of the fact that the woman was trying to be overprotective. So the understanding is that we are seeing it from our perspective as a parent, whereas those children are not seeing it. They're seeing it as from their own perspective that, you know what, I just want to do my own thing. I'm now an adult. And the fact that when you are 18, drop up to you, the system drop up to you that, you know, they're an adult, whereas they are still work in progress. But at the end of the day, what I've learned, my last is 26 anyway. So what I've learned over about this is the fact that there has to be a kind of conversation where you talk and more of listening to them or asking them, allowing them to take risk in the sense that, okay, what do you want to do? What exactly are you saying here? I'm not really getting you. Okay, you know, allow them to talk, allow them to see things in their own way, because sometimes experience is the best teacher. We can only do so much. And they don't realize the pressure we go through as a parent too. So it's so difficult, but most of it, it's about prayer. I'm a Christian, and I'm saying this unapologetically. I'm a Christian, and even when you try to be, to actually communicate with them. There are ways you can actually put your feet down as a mother or as a father. And but it's a lot easier if two parents are parenting those children, and if there is a kind of communication between the two parents. But if it's a single mom, oh my God, especially raising boys, can be pretty difficult. So God help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I've got Vivian, you've got your hand up. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Okay, go ahead.
Everyone. Oh my goodness. What an interesting topic. I have 3 millennials. They all millennials. The youngest is 19. And sort of listening to everyone, I'll say, for one, from my personal experience, I don't believe millennials to be lazy at all.
No.
But they are not. They are extremely smart young people, if you actually sat and had conversations with them, and they know a lot about what is going on. They know exactly what they want to do, at least from discussions that I have had. You know, they're not silly at all. I've had the luck of, I was born here, but I grew up in Nigeria. So my younger formative years were in Nigeria. And I'm lucky, I'm going to say Giz because she knows me well. You know, we can have conversations with them on a level, you know, without the internet, and you get through to them. You know, the morals that I've put in them from a young age, they've grown up with many of them, for instance. Because when Auntie was saying, you know, they stand in the middle of the road, they don't greet people, I cannot imagine my children doing that, for instance. There are opportunities, yes, but they're very difficult. Because I was listening to the gentleman saying the opportunities, and another lady who said she did the research. Now, my youngest daughter, I'm not going to mention her name, has applied for a job using her first name, which is the Nigerian name, and then realized after doing 10, 15 applications and changing it to an English name, that then she was getting more luck with finding opportunities, which I found to be completely inappropriate. I'm sorry. So they look at them lazy and say they're lazy. They're not lazy. They try to get the opportunities. They're not given the opportunities a lot of time. They're really not. You know, they're very inventive people and they're very creative people, but it's almost seen in society as a negative, from my personal experience anyway. They put down, you know, you say something, they get shot down so many times, and after a while, it's like almost, what is the point? And then we're talking of the internet. Yes, it can be good and it can be bad, but unfortunately, the so-called people, because my children call them the influencers, and they're the people, you know, the people with the goings on. And these are the people they look up to, the influencers. So to me, if you're an influencer, you need to be a role model. I feel that the people on the internet need to be called out to be more positive in what they're putting out there. You know, it's what you see out there is marriages, everything that's happening. We're giving birth, it's on there. We're at the club, they're fighting, it's on there. All the fashions are on there. And obviously then the children are seeing that and then thinking, you know, if the influencers and the people who are meant to be the so-called on people are wearing it or doing it, then it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I have a problem with that. I've tried to learn the whole internet thing. I know the basics, you know, the younger ones on things like Snapchat, for instance, and, you know, there's Insta, and I don't, the Snapchat is just a whole complete, I don't even, you know what, it's a whole thing. And then there's the peer pressure. Because I remember when my children were in school and they had maybe sort of non-uniform day, for example, and everyone went on the bus, and the first thing everyone did was they looked at each other's feet to see what, you know, what they were wearing. And if you didn't have the money to buy your child these sort of reasonable trainers, they then got picked on in school. And so as a parent, you don't want your child facing that. And so you aim to buy them whatever everybody else was wearing. Not so much because you felt that was the right thing to do, but you didn't want your child being bullied, you know, in school. So there's good and there's bad, but I certainly take offense to them saying they're lazy. They are absolutely very smart young men and women, and I've met a variety of them from all cultures, and extremely intelligent as well.
Thank
they
you.
really are.
Thank you so much for that input. That was amazing. Kemi has jumped out of Facebook into Zoom. Wow, Kemi, that was quick. I'm gonna and you've got your hand up, so I'm gonna ask you to unmute. Okay, are you still there?
Mute. I'm mute.
Okay.
I'm on mute. Thank you. Yeah, I had to jump back in because sometimes I like to just watch on Facebook.
Yeah.
But today the conversation kind of drew me into Zoom. And it's something I'm quite passionate about because I'm living in it, as it were. My eldest is 15 and my youngest is 8. So I kind of cut across the spectrum. So it's a kind of a recent experience for me with all the mothers within my network, what they are experiencing and what they are engaging with as well. And coming into this country, I haven't grown from Nigeria, you know, spent most majority of my childhood and, you know, in Nigeria. It's not deniable that things are different here. And I remember before we moved out of London about 12 years ago now, I happens to be working in a very prestigious company with, you know, a lot of white influential people. And one of them called me aside and said, Kemi, you're very clever. My first daughter, she could be around by 4 years, 5 years old. So I was always displaying a picture everywhere, you know, happy young mom. And he just said to me, if you want her to do well, you got to move out of London. So I guess that was what made me jump in, because there was someone saying something about living in London. And I tell you what, we were living in Dagenham at that point. And at the school my daughter was going to, she always come home with one certificate. She's done this brilliantly. She's excelling well. She's doing this, you know. And then we moved to Black Notley, which is a remote part of Essex. The first shocking revelation was that the school system there is quite different from what it was in London. It was as if they were using different curriculum. And about the end of the first week of my daughter in that school, myself and my husband was called into the school. Sorry about that. Myself and my husband was called into the school, and they said to us, if you want your girl to do well and not discouraged in this school, you need to get her extra tutor because she's really behind. Hello, this is a year 2 girl. I was shocked. And that was my journey into looking for extra tuition for my child, just to be able to settle it and catch up. And the lesson there for me is the fact that, you know, sometimes living in London is convenient, but we cannot deny that there is a very high system racism going on, especially when it comes to education, social welfare, and every other thing that supports adequate parenting. And at the back of that is the fact that we come into this country, we always assume that our academic qualification is enough to qualify us to be a good person, to be a good role model, to be a good parent, to be successful in every other aspect of life, forgetting that this is a new territory entirely. Majority of us parents in the UK, we had our primary and tertiary education in Nigeria. We didn't even pass through the university here to even understand the culture, the system, how things operate, how the education system works and things like that. Going by a young mom teaching phonics, things like that separate our children from their contemporaries. And when you try to match that up as they're growing into their teenage age, the crack begins to show. The internal inferiority begins to reflect. And somebody said also about our parents actively getting involved with our self-development, using our IQ, creativity to do things. Oh, I've heard parents that says, mommy, that is literally saying, my girl is a British or my boy is a British born, and not actually investing the time to discover their natural talents, their creativity. It is not every child that is bound to excel well in school, but most parents, African parents, not just Nigerian now, because this is quite striking among Ghanaians, among Sierra Leoneans, and every other African, migrants, that once we put them in school, we don't care as long as they can read to us on the bus or on the train, and they can tick the box that they have done the homework. What other thing are they actually doing to develop themselves, their IQ, their sense of reasoning, their communication skill, their, the way they carry themselves, their public speaking skill, how do they represent themselves when they are met with crisis? And this is what leads to many of them being psychologically bullied. Yeah. And then we as parents always just assume that because we are the alpha or omega of these children, that we can say, and it shall be. Technology, I've always been advocating for parents to step out there, not just to know how to, many African parents cannot excuse because they spend hours on social media. And on social media, there's so many resources to develop ourselves as parents as well, to support our children. But hello, we want to comment on the parties and things like that. So before we, there's system racism. Are we not being racist to ourselves and the kids as well? That is the big question I'm bringing to the platform tonight, because it's one thing to say, this is what is happening. It's another thing to say, this is what we are contributing to what is happening. We can't blame the children because we cannot treat them with our own culture, with our own knowledge or everything. Because at the end of the day, we were raised with a set of different principle values and language and everything. So for you to raise a British or to raise an American or Canadian or what have you, it's down to us as parents to first of all learn the things, the principles that guide that community. How much of that are we doing? So when it comes to safeguarding, I think the most crucial one is the emotional and the psychological torture many of African parents are putting their children through. We talk about smacking. On my scale, that is minimal to what people actually do. The abuse of forcing religion. Religion is good. I'm a Christian, I'm a devoted. But you got to make your child to understand the process rather than loading it on them. And these are things that I feel like young teenage people are rebelling against, that is making them to become more and more vulnerable to social media exploitation. There's a lot of sexual exploitation going on. There's some children that are locked up on their phone and the parents are sitting next to them. They don't even know their child is being exploited. Game is one thing that is so common among Africans, especially in London. Each time I go visiting, I cover my face because you see parents, they are not even engaging, they're not communicating. And the only way they communicate with their children is telling them, oh, you stop it. I will see that thing of you. How much of your time are you actually investing in learning their ways and the way they do things before you blame them? Because it is easier to say this. So my point here is the fact that it is not just about the system. It is about us, parents. Are we trying to make our children be what they can never be? Because if you want to raise a Nigerian, you take them to Nigeria. And that way, they train, they nurture, they do everything they have to do. And they can meet and match and fight on the same platform with their contemporaries. But in this country, there are set principles, there are values that if you want your child to excel and excel well, you've got to take them through. And it takes a lot of hard work. Thank you.
Wow. We need you to come and run our parenting group on us. Whoa. I'm definitely taking your details. That was absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Kemi. That was you hit some very salient points. And I know, K. John, you want to interject, and I'm going to come to you very shortly. But yes, well, Kemi, I couldn't even, they know me, I write, but at some point I just had to listen because you were on fire. But yeah, you are right. And, you know, I said it initially, I said, you know, parents, we have a stake in this, you know. It's very easy to point the finger, okay? How do we speak to these children? Do we speak down to them or do we speak up to them? It's very important, because self-esteem, you know, a lot of the millennials, there is a lot of mental health issues. And when you sit, and I met 2 young girls today, I met them literally 40 minutes before I came online. And these ladies were, they were trying to do a 1-hour walk to go to a place where they had been offered a job. They had no money. They had no means of getting to this place. And I said to them, and where they were coming from was almost 2 hours away. And I said, how, you know, how did this happen? There was no preparation. She said, we just want to work. And these are the so-called lazy millennials. And I said, okay, so we've given them directions on how to get there. And she said, I've applied for more than 50 jobs in the past 1 year. And everywhere I go, I'm being told I don't have experience. Okay, so as parents, and when I say parents, I took myself as a parent to these 2 young girls. So when I'm saying parents, I'm not just talking about biological parents now. I'm talking as guardians, wards to the young people. What are we doing? Are we talking to our children? Are we communicating? Are we listening to what are they passionate about? What is it they want to do? School is not for everybody. Education is not for everybody. Can they play football? Can they sing? Somebody said, I think it was Shola, who said, if they can rap, they can write policies. Because when you sit and listen truthfully, my son raps. Some of what he raps, I can't even do it in a million years. So there is talent. If we remove the profanities, if we don't harp on all that, so, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we really have to, as a community, and it's not just the Nigerians, yeah, we're talking of the whole African and the Caribbean community. Let's start listening to these kids. They are creative, but I think sometimes too, we're stifling them by placing our own expectations. I watch a lot of children, the parents did not become doctors or lawyers. So what do? You must go to law school. You must become a doctor. Why? Because I didn't become a doctor? No. If you missed the boat, you missed the boat. Don't try and relive your life through your children, because what you will have is children who go to the university for 4, 5, 6 years and come out and they're not going to do anything with that degree. So I'm going to come to you now, K. John, because you've had your hand up for a long time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you for letting me get involved in this. I know it's from a man's point of view, but I totally agree with what Kemi said. She's actually correct, 100%. A lot of you ladies are saying a lot of interesting things. Now, what I wanted to say is that when you look at the situation with these kids, right, it's got nothing to do with their passport or their identities or whatever. Look, you can have a Nigerian passport and get a job anywhere, right? Let me tell you something. At the end of the day, it's your self-belief and how you communicate that you have the ability. Then at the end of the day, they were already everything in UK is based on assumption and stereotypical, right? As a Black person, you focus on the color. It's not the color. That's what they want you to believe. It's got nothing to do with the color, because the guy who you're talking to, the white guy, he might not even have any qualification at all. He might just look good in a suit, that's it. And he can speak English. I come across them here in Egypt all the time. They can only speak English. That's it. You take that out of the equation, they can't teach. Let me tell you now, yes, that's why my son got a job. It's not about the English, it's about the skill set. It's not about the color. You come out of London and go outside London, put your qualification and your creativity on the table. See if they will challenge that. They won't. They will not challenge your creativity and your abilities. Like what Kemi said about the rap or Shola. There is nothing wrong with rap. The problem is the way they sell it. There's always a stereotypical and negative element connected to anything you do in life. Okay? The way it works is we have to make it a positive thing. Everything comes with a negative connotation. No matter what we do, it will come in a negative presence. It is down to us to make it a positive presence as well. There is nothing wrong with rap. Let me tell you. I teach in British Council, they use rap because they can't speak. They learn the rap to be able to speak. There's nothing wrong with it. So when you focus a lot on the negative sides of things like Grace was speaking about, we can change it into something positive. We can do that. We're relying too much on a system that is dead. Let me tell you now, I live in Egypt, right? The system is dead in UK. You now have to create a system for these kids to be able to focus on what they need to do. Like Grace was saying, like Kemi was saying, you can see the problems. When my son was in school, they had 2 books that were written differently. That was the first time I realized that the educational system in London is different from the one they teach them outside London. You'll find out that when you go outside London, you meet a black guy or black kid, they speak differently from you that you're in London. You're wondering why? Because the systems are not balanced. This is the trick. They keep the numbers down by creating an unbalanced system. At the end of the day, we have to become more generic in our approach. We can't just say, oh, London's the place of, has the only place where there is problems. How do you know if there's problems outside London or other places as well? You haven't checked that. So it's back to the same thing I told you before, that we have a responsibility. It's always going to be there. The kids are not listening because they cannot see, they haven't seen an opportunity yet. Until they see that opportunity, then the self-belief will come. But it depends on who they're around, who is their peer pressure, who, this is the problem. But if we can give them something to think about, they will work on it. That's all I wanted to say. But really and truly, I really enjoyed what Kemi said and Grace said and Shola. It's true, but as I keep on stressing, not because I'm a father, I just feel that it is possible. God gives them a skill. I know every child has a skill. We just have to nurture it. If we cannot focus on the nurturing of what their abilities are, they're not going to make it. Not everybody, like I said to you before, is not everyone is going to be a doctor. Not everyone's going to be you cannot force someone to be what they wanted. I was supposed to be a lawyer. I told my dad, I don't like law. It's too rigid. It's too strict. I didn't like it. And I told him. And my father was disappointed. I didn't become a lawyer. I ended up now I'm a teacher. So this is a strange phenomenon. So you can't stop these kids. They can start from something and maybe 5 years later they become something else. But we just have to kind of shield them from this epithet of whatever's going on out there. Because the peer pressure is so intense, they need something to hold on to. They need something. So much. Even if they do volunteering is not a problem. They can go and volunteer. I did it myself when I was in university. I volunteered in Shoreditch, in a place where the kids, they didn't have families. Nothing's impossible. These are skills that are generic. Whatever they do now is they add it together, it comes to fruition. They just need to become, even in football, they can go and start off as a ball boy or whatever. Tennis, the same thing. Volunteering was there. My son did it. He volunteered as a tennis coach. He volunteered as a football. Now he's a football coach. The skills are there. I totally disagree when there's no, but they're not lazy. They just have to try. Keep on knocking on the door. Someone will eventually say, okay, you want to coach? Okay, you can coach. It's not the racism. It's finding that opportunity. The racism is a front door. Open the front door and go into the next door. That's all. If you find one opportunity, you will not see it anymore. I'm in Egypt.
Thank you
I'm black,
so much.
right? So why should it be a problem? People said, what are the Arabs like? They don't care. They want to learn. That's all they care about. They don't care about my color. Let me tell you now, they're not interested. If you have the skill to teach, that's all they care about. It's about enhancing your ability in life. That's all they care about here. They don't care about anything. They want to do better. It's the same thing in UK, Let me tell you now.
Thank you, Mr. John. Thank you. You've given us quite a lot of an insight.
All right, guys.
Okay. Thank you. Hope to see you again.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Kemi. I've used all my energy today. But I hope a positive approach. I will speak to you guys again, and I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, K. John.
You're welcome. Bye.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That was amazing. Kemi, I think Shola did have a question for him, but I think as he's gone, he won't be able to answer it. So it's not a problem. We're going to move on from that. But yeah, that was some very exciting. But before we continue, I just want to welcome one of our directors in the house. Dee, unmute yourself, please, and introduce yourself. It's amazing you're on here today. I'm so excited.
Hello. I am excited too that finally, good evening, everyone. I'm Deborah, and I am the director for safeguarding children in schools. So yes, I haven't been around for a while, but I'm so happy to be here. So happy I could make it. Yeah.
Thank you, Dee. It's a pleasure to have you on. And we would just like to recognize a few of our guests. What we always like to do on Saffron, if today is your first time of coming on, we say thank you and welcome. I see Elsie is on. Elsie Anakwe, thank you so much. Elsie, good evening, Elsie.
Hello, good evening. So sorry. Hi, everyone. I've had a very tiring day, but I've enjoyed, listening to everyone. Yeah, so hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Elsie. Thank you. And we also have Auntie Amma and Anne Ajay. Auntie Amma is our mentor. Good evening, Auntie Amma. Lovely having you on this evening. Thank you. We also have all the way from Nigeria, Mrs. Olajumoke Otituloju. Good evening. Thank you for always coming on and supporting us.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Very well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody that has been, this is your Shola. I'm not sure if this is your first time, but you've been very, very, very active this evening. Thank you so much for all your input. You've had some amazing contributions today, and yeah, it's really nice. You've written something else in the chat, which it's only fair if we read. I have a travel buddy. Prior to the pandemic, I used to see him regular as clockwork on the train at 7 a.m. A 19-year-old apprentice electrician. He really opened my eyes. He opted out of uni and said he wants to be self-employed. He will work with the company for 5 years. Once his course is completed, he will get a brand new van plus certification. What struck me was how confident he was and how proud he was. I was not that clued up at 19. Okay, thank you so much for that insight, Kemi. And Dee, I'm going to ask if you've listened, if you can unmute yourself and give us some insight into today's program.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I have been listening and I'm still trying to match it all up, but I think I have a pretty good idea. What I kind of noted while everyone was speaking, and please forgive me if I don't remember names, but one of the key things that I think that came up was communication. And I think when it comes to children, I am so passionate when it comes to how we as parents or even guardians, teachers, whatever, how we communicate with children. Because you see, research has also shown what I'm about to say. So I'm just going to try and break it down. See, you can't suddenly make a 16-year-old motivated at 16. That motivation that they have at 16, 17, and, being able to decide what they want to do, having some idea about their future actually comes from when they're way younger. And one of my big concerns when it comes to how we communicate with children is not just the words that the kind of words we use, of course, and also the impact of those words. Because you see, a child that has heard, oh, how come you never do well in this subject, or how come, or what about your mate, or what about, I understand your mate did this well, or what about your brother, what about your sister? A child that has heard that from when they were young, it's going to be hard for us to motivate that child when they're 16 and when they're meant to be choosing courses, or whether or not they want to maybe go to university or do something more with their life. So I'm kind of very focused on the words that we use, because they have such strong effect on the children. So we're trying to, well, we need to stay positive, you know, stay, even when the child is not doing as well as they should, we still need to be positive. Communication also means you need to create time with that child. I remember when my children were growing up, I have 3 boys, and what I noticed at a point was that, and for a while it was just me, what I noticed was that I needed to give each child attention. So I would take turns in, like at the weekend, doing something with just one child, so that I can hear, how's your week been, what's going on. So I just feel that communication is such a strong part of what we're dealing with here, and how we pass on the messages to the children. And someone said about, you know, if you wanted to be a lawyer and you as a parent, you couldn't be a lawyer, please don't enforce it on your children, because, you know, they have that thing that they are individuals, and they have that thing that maybe they want to do with their lives. And I think as long as we're able to kind of guide them and listen to them, then yeah, it just, that's what I've been able to pick up. So I'm hoping that the words that we use build up the children and not break them down.
Yes, beautiful, Dee. I mean, I didn't expect any less from you. So that was amazing. It's true. Though I loved what the last thing you said, that the words should build them up and not take them down. Sometimes I remember years ago when I used to run my after school club, and I see children walking around the school with their shoulders down, you know, and they've come out of a class, and only God knows, you know, the words that must have been said to them. You know, I'm going to call on Marcia. Marcia, I want you, because I know as our youth engagement, I want to hear your thoughts on parenting, you know, millennials, and if there is any tips you can give us to help us with these millennials.
Hi, thanks. I was multitasking as usual.
I know.
You know, at the very beginning, you gave this 2 lists of how they're described. And it was quite disheartening to listen to, I think it's the first list.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're expressive. Yes. They're opinionated. Yes. They know what they want. Yes. They're knowledgeable. Yes. They think we are in the dark ages. Yes. But it's for us to educate ourselves. I think we need to give them the freedom to be expressive.
Yes.
We need to give them the freedom to go for their dreams and support them to get there. We can't do what our parents did. Why do you want to be a dancer when you could be an accountant? No, we've got to get them to live their life purpose, what they enjoy doing, but be there to support them. Because if we keep knocking them, they're just going to do it anyway, their way, or find the wrong crowds to do it with. What's important is engaging with them. Ask them about their day. I know they grunt at you, but you get something sometimes. Talk to them. What's going on with them? You know, and eventually they share. They do share eventually. You know, it's better they talk to you than they go and find someone else out there who will show them false interest and then lead them somewhere else. Elevate them, uplift them. You know, we praise them. I remember when my kids were in primary school, we celebrated every little win. And it would be, Mom, I got 6 out of 10 for spellings today. Yes. we're going to have a cheeseburger on the way home. You know, we celebrated everything. Mom, I got 10 out of 10 for my spelling today. Weekend, we're definitely going to go somewhere. You know, celebrate their wins. What I think showing the interest is what's so important, because that leads to the engagement. Because they engage with you. You know, when they come to you with stuff, you might think it means nothing, but to them it means a big deal. So listen to what they have to say. So yes, they can be a bit entitled, but they also understand if you say mommy doesn't have it, or mommy can't do it now, or daddy doesn't have it, or daddy can't do it now. Yes, they do understand that. They're comedians. It's like my daughter just telling me she's sleeping. So I can't say enough how much engagement is important. Engage, engage, engage. And also, you know, connect with their education, what they're doing at school. Show that interest in what they're doing at school as well, not just what you see in the house. You need to know what's happening out there. Get to know their friends. Ask about their friends. You know, encourage them to bring their friends home rather than hanging out on the corner with them. You know, if they're going out with their friends, you know, you're not spying or being intrusive, but still, oh, who are you hanging out with today? Is it Sean or is it Cameron? You know, get that sort of thing going. And when they come back, how did it go?
Yeah.
You know? So I can't speak enough. Engagement, it is so important. And I know from my two how it is. My son's more freely, he talks more freely. My daughter would give me the grants, but eventually we'll have conversations. But, you know, working from home during this pandemic, it was amazing to see how much at their age they still need you around.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm in one room working, and the number of times I get a visit a day, it tells a lot. And they might think they're independent. They might think they don't need you, but they really do. They really do. So engage, lift them up. Because if you don't do it, someone else will do it for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Marcia. And I can't disagree with you in any way, shape, or form. I love when you said engage, and I think that's possibly where the bane of the issue with the millennials is coming from, because we're not engaging. There's a disconnect, so it makes it look as if they're not compliant. Talk to them, speak to them. Knowing the names of your children's friends is the game changer. Take it to the bank. It's the game changer, because that shows them that you are interested in not just education. You know, I know there's something I do with my children and their friends. For those of them that drive, my boys don't drive, but I know every one of their friends' car number plates. Okay. And one of them got a new car, came to the house, and I said, "Oh, you've got a new car?" And he said, "Oh, yes, auntie." And I said, "Good." I said, "Get out of the way." So he said, "What are you doing, auntie?" I said, "I need to get the number plate." "Oh, no, auntie, you're not going to know it." And the other friend was with him, and he looked at him and he said, bruv, she will. He said, "No. It was a big thing. And he was like, nah, bruv. And he said, "Bruv, I'm telling you, leave it, she will." And I saw him another day. He was sitting out, and I said, "Where is your car?" And he said, "Oh, no, I didn't bring it, auntie. The car was parked there," because sometimes they're naughty, they drive nonsense, and I see them. And I said, "I read the number plate." And he said, oh my days, you know. So you see that connection, and I'm very connected with them because I take an interest in not just my boys. And it's very important that you don't just take, and I'm going to be very careful when I say this, because your child is your child. It's your biological child. But I've always said to the friends, the minute they cross into my home, I become their pseudo mother. So if I see them outside misbehaving, I will be having words with them. And I do make it a point of duty to try and know some of their parents. So you see the engagement, it doesn't stop with your children. And I did not say go and interfere in their families. Let's get it right. But anybody who is connecting with your child, you need to understand the background. You want to understand. And let me tell you something, parents, not every child your child is connecting to is right for your child. But can I say something? Allow your children to make that decision. One, it's a learning curve. Two, if there are mistakes that are going to be made, your child will make the mistake. Your child will learn from the mistake. But if you go and try and pull that relationship, you would probably cause more harm than good. Okay, so this is just what I wanted to throw out there. It's because these are lived experiences. They happen on a daily basis. I agree with you, Marcia. The first two things that I read out, they weren't from me, by the way, but I had to read them. And I'm going to read them again because some people have just joined. And it is just two ways in which the millennials were described. And the first description was, they are lazy, entitled, self-obsessed narcissists. And the second one was, they are open-minded, liberal, self-expressive, upbeat, and overtly passionate about what they do. I mean, the first one, you know what, they've probably researched, so I'm not going to knock them, but I'm yet to meet millennials that are lazy because they stay in bed. I sometimes don't get out of bed till 2 o'clock on a Sunday, so come on now. We've got to be careful how we label them. That's all I'm going to say.
And if we continue to tell them that,
they will be that way.
And they become that.
Exactly. I'm going to see if I want to call on somebody that is based in another country that is not the United Kingdom, because we've had a focus on UK. Somebody that is not in the United Kingdom that deals with millennials. I want to get, because it's nice to get another perspective on how, you know, you're dealing. So if you're not based in the UK and you're online, whether you're on Facebook or you're on Zoom, please unmute and give us an insight into how you deal with millennials anywhere other than the UK. If I have anybody on, I'll call on you if you don't unmute yourself, because I know you all. Yeah, I'm gonna who can I call on now that is not in the United Kingdom? No, I won't call. Yeah, I'm going to call on Mrs. Otitoloju. I'm sure you deal with millennials, even though that you probably deal with special millennials, but I'm sure you do. Can we ask you to unmute and give us your perspective on dealing with the millennials, please? Are you there? Yes, you are.
I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm multitasking.
You're on. Yeah. Okay.
In Nigeria, it's almost the same ball game that we go through here. But the way we'll deal with them, as I always advise mothers of teenagers, is they have already chosen their path. There's no need trying to change that line they have chosen. What you have to do is you go on your own research in that line they want to go on to and guide them rightly in that path. I don't believe, just like what the other guy said, that because you are a lawyer or you want your child to be one, I don't believe in that. I believe you should ask your child what he or she wants. It might not be in your favor. It might be something even out of the extraordinary, but just look for the best in that line and put that child through it. And I always advise parents that we should always answer their questions, because they will be asking you, but mommy, why? Everything you ask, they say is why. You must tell them that why. Because if you don't tell them that why, the society will tell them, and it might not be in your favor. I believe in that. I don't believe in training children the way we were trained in our own time. I believe the world is changing, and we should move in that trend. As we are moving in that trend, we will get the best of our children by building that confidence in them. That's what we do here. We build that confidence in them. Though it's not like that in most homes. But as advocates, child rights advocates, we always encourage parents to move in that line. Because in Nigeria now, there are lots of peer pressure, cultism, and even these, I don't know, in our country, gay lesbianism is not really accepted. But children are going into it now. And part of my training or part of my sessions in enlightening the millennials, I always make them see the various personality and they decide on who they want to be. But most parents discourage their children. And even because they discourage their children, they practice all sorts outside. And when they come home, they give a different face. So it's a lot of issue in Nigeria here, trying to raise the millennium. But we have lots of advocates now coming out to enlighten even the millennials on their behavior, on their body image, on their personality, spirituality, and generally about their sexuality. Because we see as Africans, the way we still reason, we believe in dealing with children in a very hard and firm parenting. But for now, for the millennials, they are not seeing what we are seeing. And because of all these issues we are seeing, all these issues of peer pressure, all these society menace that children are into, cultism. Cultism is so rampant in Nigeria now that is headache for even parents, because it's secret. Most parents don't even know that their children are into cults. So what we advise parents is be friendly with your child, know who your child is, know who your child's friend is, even trace it to their parental background for their friends. Visit, have dinner sometimes with them, and know the kind of person they are. Through your conversation, you'll be able to deduct, okay, this is this child, this is the kind of personality she has or he has. Basically, it's a bit difficult in Nigeria now with the millennium. And the musicians are not helping us in Nigeria. All that the youth musicians are not helping us, because most of us are still in the old schools. And when you see them with all this funny kind of music, most parents don't really, how will I say, most parents don't really allow such, encourage it. That's like my daughter, there are a lot of songs she sings. I don't listen to it. I don't play it in the house. But when she starts singing, I have to ask her, she's 10 years, where did you learn all this kind of music from? But I leave her, I hear the lyrics, and when I hear the lyrics, the one that I feel is she can adapt to, I'll tell her the one she can say, do you know the meaning of what the musician is? Do you understand the language he's talking on? Do you understand the meaning of the music? And if she says yes, Oya, tell me. If it's something that conforms with what I want her to learn, I will say, okay, all right. But if it's not, I will try to make her understand what it is. I think that's what I have to say. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Awesome. You touched on, I love how you touched on some very, very, yes, I am going to say controversial topics, but it's life, and they needed to be addressed. So thank you so much for your perspective. And as you can see, I don't think it's very different to what we have here. The only thing is, obviously, there's legislation in the UK, so it tidies things up a lot more for us. But yeah, it sounded the same. Listen to them. Listen to the young people. Let them choose. We're there to support and to guide. So let them, let them say. And Dee, you typed, yes, that sometimes we can tend to err on this side of being a bit too spiritual. Do you want to expand on that?
Well, it was when she was talking about music and things like that. Yeah. I don't listen to circular music, so I understand what she's talking about. I get that. There are a lot of things I don't watch. I don't even think I watch television, really. So I totally get where she's coming from. But you know what I do? I have a 24-year-old, a 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old, and I get into their language. I really do. Sometimes they say things and I'm like, really? And they're like, Mom, how did you know that? I'm like, oh, you think I'm just, when I go on Instagram, I'm picking up what the language is, what the music is. So even though, yes, we pray that they don't listen to some of these, and even when they do, we pray that, they won't listen to them. But the truth of the matter is, it is what it is. Yep. They do listen to it. Yes, you do say that, oh, I would really prefer that you don't play this. This is not for a Christian home. You say all that, but the point is, as a parent, you kind of have to know some of these things. You really do. You have to know some of these things. And also knowing some of these things helps you to communicate with them, because then you're communicating on their level, their language. When my 18-year-old talks, you'd think he grew up in London and he grew up in Strood in Kent. But I discovered that, you know what, this is how they talk. And I'm going to have to be the one to kind of understand it. And it makes great bonding as well with your children, where you're all able to. That's why I said Nigerian parents are a little bit too spiritual, because sometimes you need to put that down and, just kind of, as they call it, vibe with the children. And I think it's really important. So yeah, I just thought, yeah, we need to, we do have to give account, we do have to be responsible, and we do have to guide them. But how do you guide someone when you can't see where you're going? So you need to, and to see where you're going, you need to understand their language and how they communicate as well. So that's what it was.
Absolutely spot on. If you don't know the way.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dee. I think sometimes I said to my son, break that down into English for me now. What did he just say? What are you listening to? What does it mean? And he would tell me. I sometimes say, oh, Mom, you won't get it. Another thing that I do in terms of engagement, I play on my ignorance. So I would say, I'm struggling with Instagram, help me. So he feels that he's engaging and he's providing some support. So some technical things I'll say, give me a hand with this, and he quite happily do it and show me how to do it. And I use that opportunity to talk to them, just to get that sort of engagement going.
Awesome. I want to just recognize two of our Zoom families that have come in. Saffron family, Jacqueline Adebija, all the way from Nigeria. Welcome, Jacqueline. It's nice to have you on board.
Good evening. Still at work.
How are you?
Still at work. Good evening, guys.
That's fine. Thank you for coming on. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Giz.
Okay. And we also have Ollie. Ollie's in the house. Ollie's our Scotland social worker. Ollie, are you going to unmute and say hi? I know you've just joined in, so you probably haven't. Oh, Ollie's just...
Morning. Oh, sorry. I just said good morning. Sorry.
Good evening, Ollie. Good evening. How are you?
Everybody. Thanks for having me.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you, Ollie. Now, Kemi, this hand, has it just gone up again? Sorry, I've just seen your hand. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Yeah, I just, because I've been listening and I felt there's a critical aspect that's not been touched.
Go on,
and
go
that
ahead.
is the fact that these young people need to be able to be themselves. We cannot, in the name of safeguarding and what have you, wrapping them up in cotton wool. We need to be able to know when to step back a little and allow them to explore and take their whole risk, because it is in doing so that they themselves can become responsible and a adult, somebody that can be useful for themselves. Because most time, because we have all the resources, we have everything at our disposal, we tend to go overboard in the names of protection. And by the time they are now 18, 20, we are expecting them to do what they are supposed to do when indeed they are still 5 or 6 years old mentally. So as parents, we need to be able to balance things and step up, step back, allow them to fall and be there for them to pick them up and pat them and say, you know what, you can rise and go ahead again. Thank you.
Thank you, Kemi. That's amazing. And you know, this topic, it can go on forever because hey, it's millennials we're talking about. So we are going to continue next week. So what we would love is, I know this is a hard ask, people. I'm going to try and get my lot on as well. If we can try and get some of the millennials on next week, good luck with that one, everybody. It would be amazing if we could get them on and hear from, I'm not going to call them horses, but I want to hear from them, their own mouths, because we've all sat here talking about, you know, our experiences with them, and it would be amazing to hear their experiences with us. Let them know they can be behind camera. We don't need to see their faces because, you know, it's a bit obo, so we don't need to see their faces. But it would be nice if we could have a few of them on. I'm going to start bribing mine from tonight to see if they will come on next week, just to give us, okay, Auntie Victoria, you have to go. Thank you so much this evening for coming on. See you next week, Wednesday. So yes, we will be continuing the parenting millennials. And, you know, on a serious note, the reason why is they are the future. They are our tomorrow. And if we don't get this right, you know, we're going to have a massive gap, and it's going to be a worldwide gap. You know, we're talking about their mental health. We're talking about the state of them. And I don't know if you guys have been following the news, and a lot of the millennials who had been affected in care homes. And I just sat there listening to the news, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, they really are not being listened to. And while I was listening to the interviews, all I could hear is, we're not listening. They don't listen to us. They don't listen to us. We're not listened to, you know. Ollie, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I don't know if, sorry, I'm just joining, so I'm not sure.
Cool.
Perhaps you've touched on what I wanted to say.
Sure.
I think for the millennials, what comes to my head is obviously there's a dilemma of the use of the internet and technology.
Yeah.
So I know proud to what's the name? Proud to the lockdown, the total lockdown in last year. One of the biggest battle confronting us with the millennial kids, or yeah, I suppose they're millennial kids. One of the biggest battle confronting us was this online safety, which was a big deal for the young ones, because you know they know their way around it. You know, they grew up knowing what to do with it. But since the lockdown, one of the things that has kind of come up continuously, particularly in child protection and children and family social work, and I suppose with families as well, is obviously there's a lot of dependence on the internet. So proud to the lockdown, we were trying to explore. Of course, most professionals and well, I suppose in the UK, most professionals, all we're looking at was how to work with these young people and even families, like how to help train parents and carers on online safety. But I suppose it's all been thrown on our face indirectly now because of the use of internet, because obviously here we are using Zoom and Teams and everything that goes with it. And I think on one hand, we were going maybe say 7 steps forward, but now we're back to where we started from. And I think the major dilemma now is what is safety? And I think that's because we're having this discussion. So like in Scotland, we have this stuff that's going to be rolled out next year. It's called The Promise. And I'll send you the link to it. It's quite big stuff. I don't want to bore you with what it is, but I suppose from my understanding, I think eventually England is looking to use it as well if it's successful in Scotland. So we see how it goes. But basically, The Promise fits into the Every Child Matters, getting like which you call in England, and for us is getting right for every child here. And The Promise looks really, I mean, we were all going through it just shortly. It came up obviously in between the COVID, and it looks really good, like every other thing. It looks really good on paper, but the reality of it, there are questions, a lot of questions there. And for young people, particularly the children who are young adults, and then the true care and after, sorry, I'm using another word now. The 16 to 26, so in Scotland we have 16 to 26, which will be classed as true care and aftercare. They know their way and they know how to navigate the system, particularly when it comes to technology. But obviously now we are giving them, like in Scotland, we have this Connect Scotland, which is giving free My5. Is it My5 is called? The mobile internet suffers. And also they're giving iPads and laptops to school. And I think listening to the Scottish government talk about, well, the SNP, Scottish National Party, talk about internet stuff, there is a lot of reservations from us professionals with regards to it, because then again, we're back to where we used to be. At what stage is control? You know, so I don't know if you've touched about it, but that's an ongoing, very big conversation just now.
Yeah.
Where on one hand, we're saying there's a need for internet safety or online safety, but now we're all solely dependent online.
On that. Brilliant. What you've just done, Ollie, you've taken us into next week.
Sorry.
That's fine. You've just really, really set the ball. That means, Ollie, you have to be back next week, I'm afraid. So you just can't come in here and jump in. Nah. You got to be here, my darling, because you started it. So you've got to come on next week, where we'll be talking about online dangers, as you were talking about, what is safety, engagement tips. We'll be discussing sexual exploitation and the voice of the millennials. And I'm going to ask one, come with one, at least bring one millennial with you, even if you have 3. Tell the other 2 to sit at home and bring one. Yeah, and it would be lovely for us to have them on. And the reason being is then we can hear from them, you know, what the whys, because that question needs to be answered. The online dangers, do they not know about it? So these are questions we can throw at them next week, and we can hear their perspective. So it would be amazing if we could have you back next week, Ollie, and everybody else, to continue this topic, parenting millennials. I think it's one that is close to everybody's heart, because we've all got millennials, you know, or we've all got people who have millennials. We've got nieces, we've got nephews, you know, even if we don't have our own biological, but you've all got somehow in contact with them. So today has been a very, very insightful session. I mean, even me, I learned quite a lot today. You know, Mr. K had some amazing things to throw at us, and so did Shola, and Kemi. You know, thank you all so much, and Dee, and for even you yourself, Ollie, you've just come, but you were able to pick up. Well, with your experience, that doesn't really surprise me, but you know, you were able to pick up and throw some amazing stuff at us. So I'm going to hand over to you, Yemi, before we draw the curtain. If you have any words to say, just for us before we close, yeah?
Okay, thank you. I just think it's just been a very interesting, and you used the word insightful evening. I noticed a couple of threads that and themes that went by us, or we came in contact with. One was engagement, and then it made me wonder why within social care we use the word engagement and empowerment together. And it's basically, I believe, it's because when you engage, you can empower. You can't empower without engaging. So those two words, when we use them, it's actually for a purpose, and they're not just buzzwords. Because sometimes I think a lot of the words we use in social care have become buzzwords or, um, anyways. Okay, another word or two words that shone through was education. And education here is both sides. And like Giz said, and quite a few people said on the program today, was that we need to educate ourselves as parents to millennials because they are educating themselves, be it they're educating themselves on some things that we don't agree with, but it's also down to us to educate ourselves and bring ourselves up to that. You know, we might not get to 80% of how the millennials think, talk, act, but if we're able to match them up to a certain halfway at least, then you can get into an intelligence and engaging conversation with them. And then they might actually feel that they're able to discuss some certain things with you that you would understand and be on the same level with them. I think another two things that also went by was were self-belief and confidence. And just like engagement and empowerment go together, that self-belief brings out the confidence in them. Sometimes they're a bit overconfident, but hey, I think we'd rather have some overconfident children who you know can stand their ground and develop and be creative, than having children who do not have this self-belief in themselves and not be able to achieve. So these are the points that I picked on, and I would just say it has been an amazing, amazing evening. Uh, Facebook, wow, we've had so many people that have come on, and all I'm just asking is that this conversation continues next week. Like he said, bring somebody, share it with somebody. We're how many? 5 point something odd million millennials we have. We need a whole lot more numbers to be able to do some justice to this discuss. So please join us. Thank you everyone who joined me on Facebook. Please continue to leave your comments. I'm also going to leave an evaluation link. Please follow that link. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're not doing, what other topics you want us to bring to the table, because we have no fear. Whatever topics that you want us to talk about, we don't fear, no shaking. We will bring it out and we will talk about it.
Yep.
So thank you, everyone that has joined us. We appreciate you. Jacqueline, thank you. Auntie Grace Alexander, thank you. Elsie, great seeing you. Please come back more often. Mrs. Otitoloju, awesome work you're doing out there. My sister Kemi, please come back. You really blew us away this evening. Jacqueline, all the way from Kaduna, thank you so much. Nene, we haven't had you on the show, but you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Have
Nene
we?
Nene was the lady in Lekki that told us about St. David, and she was my colleague in Uniport years ago.
Yes, I remember. My bad.
Our Lekki champion.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Nene.
so much for joining us. Oh, Marcia, Shola. I think we need to get you to unveil yourself next week so we can see the face behind that powerful voice.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so much that you have to say. Dee, I'm holding you on to that next week. We'll see you next week. Ollie, God bless you. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's been an awesome evening, and look forward to seeing these faces and many more next week. Have a lovely evening. Anyone else have something to say? Feel free, unmute yourself.
Can I just say hello to
Yes.
Sociology?
Yes.
I did not realize that she was on
yeah.
So
Miss Sotitaloju, Auntie Grace is saying hello to you. She's multitasking this evening.
Yeah. She's multitasking. So I'm sure she'll be on next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
My regards to her. Okay.
Brilliant. Awesome. Okay. Have a good evening, everybody, and stay safe. And we'll be back same time next week, Wednesday, where we'll be continuing with our parenting millennial session. Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.